The victory was as emphatic as it was brilliant. It was arguably Tottenham's most impressive win this season because if they started as underdogs then they finished the night as red-hot favourites. Tottenham were magnificent, their swashbuckling second-half performance completely overwhelmed Borussia Dortmund and they are now surely on course for the quarter-finals. Once again, it was Heung-min Son who was the game-changer. His goal at the start of the second half completely changed the momentum at Wembley. Man of the match Jan Vertonghen made it 2 and then Fernando Llorente completed the win with late goals for a scoreline to make the rest of Europe sit up and take notice. All season long, Tottenham have been defying the odds just as they did this time because no one should underestimate the scale of their achievement in humbling the Bundesliga leaders. Mauricio Pochettino spotted what was going wrong in the first half, changed it tactically at halftime and Dortmund simply had no answer to Tottenham's energy and attacking force. That is the mark of a top manager to be able to see the problem, solve it and Pochettino has instilled an unshakable belief in these players who are fearless and never know when they are beaten. At the heart of that is Son who has stepped up through the absences of Harry Kane and Dele Alli and made himself completely indispensable. Son used to be something of an unsung hero and, while there will be more obvious choices like Sergio Aguero, the South Korea striker deserves to be on the shortlists when the Player of the Year nominations are announced. Since his return from the Asia Cup at the end of last month, Son has scored in 4 consecutive games to keep Tottenham in the title race and now on course for the Champions League quarter-finals. Incredibly, Son has scored 9 goals in 10 games against Borussia Dortmund for former clubs Hamburg, Bayer Leverkusen and now Tottenham. You just cannot keep him down. Even when he is not playing at his best, he still scores. And that is just typical of Tottenham's never-say-die spirit. Tottenham's whole Champions League campaign had looked over before it had begun after they lost their opening 2 group matches yet still somehow managed to sneak through. They could have given up the ghost after crashing out of both domestic cup competitions in the space of 4 days but, rather than feel sorry for themselves, they picked themselves up and went again. Tottenham looked nervous, intimidated even in a shaky first half when Dortmund were the better team as England starlet Jadon Sancho shone, Christian Pulisic, the player who will join Chelsea this summer, and Spurs keeper Hugo Lloris had to make a string of smart saves. In contrast, Tottenham looked rather toothless up front. Son was starved of service and Lucas Moura's early shot was as close as they came as they were pinned back and struggled against Dortmund's pace and movement. Lloris's best save came after 44 minutes when Sancho's teasing right cross found Dortmund defender Dan Axel Zagadou at the back post. His header deflected off Foyth and the Spurs keeper somehow clawed the ball back from going over the line. Maybe it was the wake-up call and escape they needed because Tottenham were a different team after the restart. It took them just 2 minutes after the restart to make the breakthrough. Christian Eriksen and Lucas were involved in the build-up before Jan Vertonghen's superb left-wing cross picked out Son. Son's movement was superb. He peeled off Zagadou in the middle and worked enough space to calmly side-foot the ball into the net. That put Tottenham in the driving seat but they still had to wait for the goals. The second came after 83 minutes, Serge Aurier's cross found Vertonghen who was rushing in at the back post to fire home. That was no more than Vertonghen deserved for a brilliant display. 4 minutes later, they had a third. Eriksen's corner was flicked home by Llorente who has come on as a substitute 34 times but this was the first time he has scored. Proof if ever you needed it that everything was going Tottenham's way.